Hello guys, welcome to Open Techno. A few weeks ago, we showed you the first mini PC on the channel. A mini PC that we said was entry level for basic applications, web browsing, office work, or even setting up a small local server. However, many of you mentioned in the comments that you wanted to see a more powerful mini PC on the channel with higher performance to run heavier applications. That's why we got in touch with the folks at Minisforum and they sent us the NAB9. This is the mini PC I'm going to show you in today's video. However, just to give you a brief introduction, this is going to be a mini PC that's completely different from the one we already saw. A mini PC that comes with an Intel i9 12900 HK. For all of you who aren't familiar with the naming conventions, the Intel i9 is basically the top tier for consumer PCs, so to speak. Although it's already from the 12th generation. And we have that HK suffix, which basically means we've got a top tier processor. That is, the maximum cores at the highest frequency, and so on. When processors are made, this is basically the top tier, the HK. As I mentioned in this video, we're going to do the review and see how it performs and what kind of functionality we can get from a computer like this. So let's move on with the video and see how the Minisforum NAB9 works. As I mentioned at the beginning, Minisforum is a brand dedicated to creating mini PCs, and in this case, the NAB9 is one of their best creations. They're best creations because we have very high quality components like that i9 I mentioned to you. But let's start from the beginning and talk a little about its aesthetics. It's a computer that's mainly built out of plastic, but it's very well equipped in terms of connectivity. We're gonna see that now. The dimensions are such that it practically fits in one hand. I can't tell you the exact weight, but I'd say it weighs about as much as 3 or 4 cell phones approximately. It's really very light, so that's not a problem at all, and it's very small. It fits in your hand, about the size of a very small dessert plate. It has really good connectivity. As I was saying, on the front side, we're going to have a microphone and 2 USB-A 3.2 ports, so the USB speeds are really good. We have a USB-C to connect all kinds of devices nowadays. A mobile phone, a USB drive, a hard drive, a camera, any kind of USB-C device. We have a headphone jack and we have the power button. Then, on the right side and the back, we have an exhaust for the hot air, with air intake from the bottom of the device. On the bottom, we have a fan, a heat sink with a metal plate that dissipates heat through 2 pipes. This is to distribute all the heat generated by the processor, in this case the i9. On the back, we have 2 HDMI ports for 4K at up to 60 frames per second. We will have 2 more USB-A ports up to 3.2, which is a very good speed, and we will have 2 USB-C ports. One of the USB-C ports would simply be for connecting to a monitor. That's the one I'm using, for example. Although it only allows for a monitor, it's also true that we can connect other things. For example, I have my mouse connected directly to the monitor, and it works without any problem. The other USB-C will allow all kinds of connections and will even have PD charging in case we need to connect any other type of device that needs plenty of power. So we have that port. And then there's something very interesting. We have the 19-volt charger, which we will have to use no matter what, because I tried to start it directly by connecting it from the monitor. But no, it doesn't work because apparently it needs more power. And finally, we're gonna have 2 ports, RJ45 Ethernet ports of up to 2.5 gigabits per second. Why does a computer like this have 2 network cards? 2 explanations come to mind. The first one is, if we have a really good processor, it's because we have applications that are possibly running for most of the day. We need good reliability in those applications, and maybe we need to connect 2 network cards to 2 different internet lines, 2 LANs. This is an explanation, and well, if we need to do some kind of load balancing, we have it directly available. But another explanation that comes to mind is that we might want to install a server operating system, an operating system that allows this computer to run as if it were a router, meaning that we have the possibility to route traffic. And well, also to have this computer behave as if it were a server for our network and to offer services even externally. Later you'll see that I actually haven't used it. I've used it over Wi-Fi because we have Wi-Fi 66, which is the latest standard currently used by the public. And we have Bluetooth 5.2, so with this Wi-Fi it's been more than enough for me because it picked up without any kind of interference, no drop in latency, nothing. All the network I have at home with my provider. Let's go a little deeper into the configuration. This Minisforum NAB9 is going to have an Intel i9-12900HK as I mentioned, and we have two configurations, either 32GB of RAM with a 512GB drive or with a 3D. However, this is the best option we can configure in this mini PC, but we can also configure an i7-12650H, an i7-12700H, or an i5-12600H. Anyway, as you can see, in this video we have the i9, the most powerful one, but if we want a cheaper computer, we can buy one of the more affordable options, although they're a bit less powerful. I was surprised that Minisforum uses high quality components. We're going to have 32GB at 3400 MHz, which is really good, and a 1TB SSD from Kingston. So we have good brands, in this case a reliable PC built to last. To finish with the design part, mixed with the hardware features, on the top we have a little cover that we can remove, which gives us access to the RAM and hard drive. An SSD, since we'll be able to install another drive. On the cover itself, we can screw it in, connect it with a cable that comes directly in the box with the PC itself, and in this way, we expand our computer's storage. Additionally, we can also attach it to the back of a monitor using a VESA mount, which is also included. I haven't told you this, but as you've seen, we have plenty of HDMI ports, USB-C, and we can connect up to 4 monitors. But let's move on to performance. Just so you know, that i9-12900HK is going to have 14 cores with 20 threads made up of efficiency and high performance cores. You'll see that clearly when we're running day-to-day tasks with a program that shows us core usage. We'll see how those efficiency cores work, consuming very little, around 10 or 20 watts. However, when we want to run something like a game like I've been doing, we'll see that those high-performance cores get activated. This processor can consume almost 70 watts. The processor has 24 megabytes of cache and reaches up to 5 gigahertz in frequency, which is very high for a desktop computer, but it's actually a laptop chip. But if there's something I'm missing, it's a graphics card. Why do I say this? Because I've been able to run all kinds of applications at incredible speed. You're also gonna see the results of Geekbench, which is running right here, so you have a little reference. For all of you who might be looking to buy a computer and want to know what kind of performance range this computer has, well, you have those numbers there. But anyway, what I've been doing is everyday tasks, using the internet, editing videos, and basic photo editing. We've also been preparing several uploads to the channels and then playing a game, playing Counter-Strike. Even though it's a game that doesn't require a high-end computer, it's true that after its latest major update, it needs a lot more processing power. And honestly, it's performed perfectly. When I set it to 2K resolution and low graphics, in these cases I was able to get an average of 80 frames per second. But it's true that if we set it to 4K or add all those shadow texture and other processing effects, the performance drops and we can end up with less. So it'll work just fine for casual gaming, right? As I told you, I would need a more powerful graphics card than the integrated one, the Intel Iris X, which comes with the Y9 itself. But well, I guess this type of computer is bought by people who aren't so focused on video games, but rather, for example, on video editing or photo editing, and these other kinds of things that don't require such a powerful graphics card. And if something has caught my attention, I don't know if it's for better or worse, it's been the temperature of this computer. It's true that since it's a very compact computer, the cooling is very limited. But as I told you, it has a good cooling system with 2 pipes that distribute the hot air through a system of channels. And honestly, it performs well when doing everyday tasks. It's rare for it to go over 70 degrees, but it's true that when I pushed it to 100%, really letting the processor run free, it reached up to 90 degrees. One of the cores which worried me a bit, but it's true that the rest of the cores stayed around 80 or 85. Well, that's not bad for a laptop cooling system, basically. It doesn't make sense for the performance to drop either. I've been playing for quite a while, about half an hour straight, and honestly the performance has stayed consistent. If it had to be low, it was low from the start because of the graphics card, but it's true that it doesn't start heating up and then gradually lose performance. No, honestly, I've noticed that it's been consistent the whole time, but like I said, even though this computer can handle games, its purpose is going to be for other types of applications. It's meant for that audience. Well, for example, developers, video editors, photo editors who need good processor power, but not so much from the graphics card. The good thing about this type of computer, and what I really like, is that they're completely silent if, for example, like now, we're not doing anything demanding. The CPU fan is off, so it doesn't make any noise, it doesn't bother us at our desk, and we can work without any distractions. Even so, when the fan does turn on, it's not very noisy, it's actually quite pleasant, although it does make some noise. Just to give you some information, it's true that the computer comes with Windows 11 pre-installed. For all of you who, for example, want to set up a server at home or want to run some kind of service or something that requires more professional features, you will have to install another operating system with a different license. Also, if for example you are programmers and you need to have a very large application open or whatever, you should know that the RAM is expandable up to 64 GB and the hard drive is expandable up to 2 TB. Lastly, it caught my attention that when I opened the cover, I also saw that the SSD is cooled, so as I said, it's a reliable computer that's built to last and offers very good performance. However, having said that, I'll leave it up to you in the comments to say what kind of application you want to run on this computer, why you're looking for a mini PC like this, and if you have any questions that I can answer, don't forget to leave them in the comments and I'll get to them as soon as possible. That being said, the only thing left to mention is the price. As I said, it's a very complete computer with great features for everyday use, but if you want to play games, this isn't the computer for you. For everything else, it is. So how much does it cost? Well, you can find it on the official website, this version with an i9 starting at around $500. It's true that on Amazon Spain it costs around $700, but we'll leave a link for you in the description below.
La página con el precio más barato.
If we find one. However, if you think that's too much and you want something in between the PC we saw a few weeks ago on the channel and this one with the i9, you should know that there are intermediate versions with the i5 or i7, which are around $400. That said, as I mentioned, if you liked the video, leave a like, any questions in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.